Learning that you're intended to become your idol's greatest rival and a psychotic mass killer isn't really the best day in the office. However, it happened to Eobard Thawne, aka the Reverse Flash, and resulted in plenty of chaos. But what are some of the worst things that Eobard Thawne has ever done over his various and seemingly infinite incarnations? That's what we're exploring today. So, in the wise words of an old Italian man, let's go. An intent boyfriend killer. After his research on the Speed Force while at residency in the Flash Museum had gained some traction, Eobard fell in love with a reporter named Rose who had been hired by Central City Science Today to interview him. However, he learned that she was engaged. So his future self interfered with the timeline, killing Rose's fiance in an attempt to get her to love him, but it didn't work. So he proceeded to kill every man she had started seeing after her fiance, and eventually every man who she had ever dated at all. So when she steadfastly refused to believe that her fiancé was gone for good, they became platonic friends. However, she continued to just brush off Thawne's romantic advances, eventually retaliating physically when he attempted to kiss her. In anger, his future self traumatized the reporter as a child, rendering her mute and causing her to be institutionalized for the rest of her life. Although, if she was still friends with Eobard while knowing full well that he was just in love with her, she only had him around for attention at that point. Any good person wouldn't be friends with someone who was in love with them if they didn't feel the same. Just saying. I'm causing a few of you to rethink your relationships, huh? In at 9, ripped a letter. This doesn't sound like a lot, but trust me. Not even Batman was safe from this devil. During the events of the Flashpoint comic arc, Barry brought back to Batman a letter from his father, who is alive in the Flashpoint timeline as Batman. It's the only contact that Batman has had with his parents ever since they died. So it would be a shame if something were to happen to it. Oh wait, that's right, Thawne decides to rip it to shreds so that it couldn't even be reassembled. It also didn't help that Thomas was the reason that Thawne was killed in that timeline, so yeah, this was certainly a way to get back at Thomas, even though he was dead in this timeline, which was probably the best way to get revenge. But like, this was still super unnecessary, but I guess it was worth it in the end for Eobard, but it would have messed up Batman real bad. And at 8, Flashpoint. Speaking of Flashpoint, let's talk about the fact that Thawne is in essence the reason that Flashpoint is a thing. I mean, if Thawne had never killed Barry's mother, Barry would never have had to go back to save her, resulting in the Flashpoint timeline. Depending on what version of time travel, or I guess what theory of time travel you believe. Either there was an original timeline where Barry's mother didn't die but he still became the Flash, or the killing of Barry's mother always takes place, resulting in a chicken and the egg scenario where Thawne had to create the Flash to then create himself to then go back and create themselves. Either way, without Thawne, there would be no Flashpoint. His mere existence is what causes Flashpoint to be made, even if Barry is the one who ends up changing the past to save his mother. So I'm gonna count this as something that Thawne did. And at 7, creates the Flash. Aside from the whole killing Barry's mom thing, turning Barry into the Flash, Thawne in season 1 of the Flash TV show did a whole other thing. After being stranded in our present after killing Barry's mother due to a lack of speed, Thawne decides that the only way to get back to his time was to get the Flash's help. So he kills Harrison Wells, takes over his identity, wears his face, and creates the particle accelerator early. 6 years early to be exact, since originally the accelerator explodes in 2020, thus creating a whole new timeline of events, similar to what Nora does when she helps Barry destroy the Thinker satellite in the season 4 finale, advancing time by 5 years. This time Thawne advanced it by 6 years. Using the face of another man to train Barry, gain his trust, and then ultimately use him to get back to his own time, that's pretty messed up if you ask me. And at 6, lead Fascists. In the Crisis on Earth X crossover event from the Arrowverse, we get our world and a wedding of Iris West and Barry Allen interrupted by a group of fascist soldiers from an alternate reality known as Earth X. The classic Germany wins World War II scenario. However, these soldiers are accompanied by evil versions of Green Arrow and Supergirl. The evil version of Flash is missing, however he does appear in the Ray animated series, which this crossover also technically has a crossover with, but they're just brought into real life, same kinda like how they did with the Vixen crossover. But the evil version of the Flash in this crossover, oh you bet your ass it's Thawne. Wearing Wells' face no less. Presumably having killed the Barry of Earth X, Thawne helps Overgirl and Dark Arrow lead a group of fascist soldiers on the attack, nearly taking control of Earth 1 if not for the Justice League that hadn't officially been formed yet. Even the Joker turned on Red Skull when he learned that he was actually a fascist and not some kook in a costume. Reverse Flash is worse than Joker. Confirmed. Halfway through, and at number 5, framed Barry's father. In the process of killing Barry's mother out of anger since he couldn't manage to kill Barry, Thawne ended up framing his father for the murder and gets him sent to prison. Obviously, this wasn't really avoidable because of how time works or whatever, but this still causes Barry a great deal of pain. I mean, that was the ultimate intent, but it's still pretty messed up. And in The Flash Season 2, Thawne confesses to the murder of Nora Allen in an effort to show Barry that even with his dad out of prison, he still won't be happy, which is even more messed up. Especially given that him getting his father out of prison directly results in his death at the hands of Zoom. And then Barry meets his father's doppelganger from Earth 3 known as Jay Garrick. And then another version of his father named Barry Allen from Earth 90 in the Elseworlds crossover. Meeting Jay also sends Barry spiraling into a depression that causes him to create the Flashpoint timeline in the Arrowverse as well, which was already an earlier point. So I think that this definitely earns a spot on the list. In at 4, killed his family. Eobard Thawne was born in 2451. His parents genetically engineered him to be highly intelligent and to have a particular appearance. However, as he grew up, they became concerned about his lack of social skills and tendency to daydream, which was frowned upon in their very regimented society. Hoping that caring for a sibling would help Eobard adjust, his parents had a second son, Robert. Eobard struggled to manage his little brother and chaffed when reprimanded by their parents for his periodic outbursts that were triggered by his frustration. But later down the line, he applied to the Flash Museum to study the Speed Force, but it was rejected. So he started researching it illegally. But then he was caught by Robert, who was an officer in the Science Police. This caused Eobard a great deal of pain, which is understandable given that your brother sent you to prison, so much in fact that a future version of Eobard traveled into the past and prevented Robert from ever being born, which caused him to get the job at the Flash Museum. His knowledge of the Speed Force also caused his peers to nickname him Professor Zoom, but eventually his parents grew concerned and instigated the closure of the Flash Museum. So again, his future self interfered with the timeline and caused the deaths of his parents, allowing him to continue his research. Yeah, that's right. In post-Infinite Crisis, Eobard Thawne killed his family. Getting close to the end, and at number 3, the Spear of Destiny. The Spear of Destiny, or Holy Lance, was an immensely powerful biblical artifact capable of altering reality. It is mentioned in Judeo-Christian religions, and it was an ordinary spear before Roman soldier Longinus used it to pierce the side of Jesus Christ after he died on the cross, resulting in its immense supernatural powers. The second season of the Arrowverse show Legends of Tomorrow revolves around the Legion of Doom, composed of Damien Darhk from a time before he was killed by the Green Arrow, Malcolm Merlyn after just watching Damien die on TV, and Thawne. Captain Cold, Heatwave, and Rip Hunter were also among the members, but the main unholy trinity were these three. They did end up managing to rewrite reality, and in this reality, Eobard Thawne made himself mayor of Central City and the owner of Star Labs. Also in the present time, not 2040 or 2140 or whenever he was born, which is weird. But still wanting status and fame, he would use his genius and company to solve various problems around the world, to which he gained various awards and influence over the world. He also had the demonic speedster that was chasing him, Black Flash, as his personal pet prisoner who constantly struggled to get free of his cell. He also made it so that Ray Palmer, Martin Stein, and Jefferson Jackson worked for him and had miserable lives. He also had Rip Hunter trapped inside the Wave Rider when it was shrunk, and he kept it as like a little statue in his lab, which is that's a whole other can of worms. Penultimately, in at number 2, the Dark Multiverse. The original Flashpoint story sees Barry save his mother and create a whole new world where he isn't the Flash, like I explained in number 8. However, in the Dark Multiverse version of the story, Barry doesn't get his speed back, instead dying when he and Thomas attempt to restore his power. So the vacuum left by the Flash is filled by none other than, you guessed it, Eobard Thawne, who claims to be the Flash and proceeds to try and end the war between the Amazons and Atlanteans by threatening and killing, which obviously just works out in his favor and he becomes a hero. Just kidding. Instead, this causes the Atlanteans and the Amazons to team up and try to destroy America. So as a way to stop this, Thawne runs back in time and creates his own version of this new timeline, crafting it perfectly to his whims, something that the Flash show would later adapt briefly. In the comics though, he prevented the Flash from ever being created, he saved Bruce Wayne as well as Martha and Thomas Wayne, resulting in there being no Batman, and ends up converting every superhero to his purpose, resulting in Thawne having a whole Justice League at his disposal. disposal. They even have Reverse Flash symbols on their outfits. Plus, preventing Batman from ever being made, and I say this every time, is the best decision that anyone has ever made as a villain in this universe. If there's no Batman, there's no one that's going to resist you, because Batman is going to resist every single time. And finally, in at number 1, Reverse Flashpoint. The Flash Armageddon is currently an ongoing 5-part crossover taking place in the first 5 episodes of Flash Season 8. However, in episode 4, spoiler alert, 3, 2, 1, it's revealed that Eobard Thawne, who looks like Wells again, but is using his real name, creates his own version of Flashpoint, where thanks to the new negative still force, instead of saving Barry's mother, he manages to kill Barry as a child, as he set out to do so many years ago. Or I guess Will set out to do. I don't know, time travel is weird, man. Anyway, he kills Barry as a child and then takes his place at CCPD the night the accelerator exploded, resulting in him becoming the Flash. And as this episode takes place, one night away from marrying Iris West. Yeah, so basically, Thawne changed the timeline so that he was actually the Flash. No imitation, no fake outs, he was truly the Flash. Like in this scenario, Speed Force chose him. And Barry was the Reverse Flash, even connected to the negative Speed Force, and having the classic red lightning and yellow suit. And as Damien Dark said, that is a work of evil art. That's all the time we have for today, friends. Thank you all so much for watching. I have been and Shower Man Connor Monroe, and I'll see you in another video.